Okay, you know what? We're not counting down because we're just live. It's not working. Having technical difficulties.
That's okay. That's okay. We're still here. We're still live. Happy to be here. The Real Football Fans of New Jersey, episode 129. It's
29,
Wednesday already.
number.
Can't believe it. But again, happy to be here. Happy to be discussing all big things in the world of housewives and football. We got a lot of great things to talk about tonight. We wanted to know, we had some poll questions for you guys, though, on Instagram. So we wanted to know the answer to 3 intriguing questions, although I will say that there's a heavy majority on 2 out of the 3 answers. But anyway, let's kick it off. This first question was a football question. Will the New York Jets fire head coach Adam Gase before their Week 11 bye? 84% of you said yes.
A lot of Jets fans of you said yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I said yes. So
I said yes.
I think obviously the firing of Adam Gase is inevitable. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen.
Around the corner.
I forget who it was. I was reading an article basically saying they think like if the Jets do not win this Week 4 game, they could see Adam Gase get it on Thursday. They play Thursday night football. So they were like, I could see Adam Gase being fired on Thursday if they lose that game.
Listen, I heard commentary Dan Quinn was going to be out Monday morning. It's a little...
He's on the hot seat too.
It's a little cutthroat right now. And you know, all signs pointing to good reason to be cutthroat with these 2 teams. But the Jets in particular with Adam Gase, it's definitely questionable. It's definitely terrifying. What are you guys doing? And this is coming from 2 people that we understand what a dumpster fire looks like, but at least we have fire extinguishers in the vicinity. You guys don't even have anything to put out the fire, to attempt to put out the fire.
Yeah, and I think with Dan Quinn and with Adam Gase, these were 2 guys who I was a little bit surprised to see them hang on to their jobs last season.
Yeah.
So we knew going into this season they were going to be on thin ice, and both teams starting 0-3. We could see firings midseason.
Dun, dun, dun.
Question number 2, on a positive note, some teams that are doing well. Who is the better 3-0 NFC team, the Green Bay Packers or the Seattle Seahawks? I personally feel like this is close, which was showcased by our votes. 60% of you said the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
That's who I went with.
I went with the Seahawks as well. I think there's a lot of arguments out there that Aaron Rodgers is playing his best football. He looks like he's playing great football, but people are comparing him, going into his early 20s and that like young prime Aaron Rodgers. Listen, I got to counter it that Russell Wilson's playing his best football that I've seen in a very long time.
Russell Wilson right now, if he can continue to do what he's doing, is a shoo-in for the MVP. And I know that sounds silly because we're only 3 games through, but what he's doing is on another level that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
But listen, I'm actually pretty impressed with the Packers. I didn't think they would look as good as they're looking. It's not that I doubted them or thought that they wouldn't be 3-0 to start the season, but they've looked better than I thought they would. And the Seahawks, I was definitely big on them. I said they were my dark horse Super Bowl team. And so to me, I'm not as surprised. I did kind of expect this from them. I do have more and for that, because of before the season even started, I was high on this team. So that's kind of where my vote went on this one. But both teams are looking real good right now, honestly, and can definitely be contending as the top team in the NFC. And then finally, our last question. Love this lady for sure. Is Leah McSweeney the greatest Housewives rookie of all time? 84% of you said yes. She's been getting a lot of love. We both said yes.
Yeah.
We love Leah. I'm almost intrigued for the people and we only had a couple of them. I want to know the people who voted no, who they think the best rookie is. I did read one article that actually talked about this. And said maybe the only other person who they felt made such a huge impact was like a Brandi Glanville.
But maybe people are making that argument because Brandi's made such an impact over time. This is still Leah's first, but I understand where people are coming from. If you just look at Brandi's rookie season, definitely made an impact for sure. But I can't put anyone up against
Leah's coming into such a loved cast. I think such a strong cast. I mean, Sonia's been there forever. Luann and Ramona are OGs.
Like, think about like Margaret coming into Jersey. She came into Jersey at a really prime time when it was kind of not falling apart, but there was definitely some holes.
They needed a spark.
York, there's no holes. Maybe we're going into a time where there's some holes, but there was
so they're never a franchise that's broken that needs fixing.
Yeah, like Bethany was gone, but there was still so much strength around.
Yeah, you didn't necessarily need to bring anybody in.
No.
But sure enough, Leah comes in, and honestly, in such a strong cast that we just talked about.
Yeah.
For me now, with Dorinda being gone, for me to say that my favorite Roni girl is Leah, and she's only got one season under her belt, shows the impact.
Yeah,
that she made.
Absolutely, 100%.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for voting on those poll questions, and we're going to be talking about a few of those things throughout the show.
We definitely will. So stay tuned. So let's get into our big stories of the week for football. This first one is the inevitable thing that we didn't want coming. Maybe we didn't see coming so soon, but maybe it's a good thing we're facing it going into week 4, and we can kind of tackle it, and the NFL can kind of figure out what to do from here. So yesterday was reported, unfortunately, that the Tennessee Titans have 3 new players and 5 new personnel individuals. Our lights just like nervous.
They didn't like that.
They didn't like that. I don't like it. Spooky. Test positive for COVID-19. Oh my goodness. So to take precaution, they decided to all work remotely. So all like in person, like events, things, everything was canceled.
Right.
They're not coming back to the facilities until Saturday. So this does impact, and I think maybe people didn't think of this.
Right.
Obviously, people assumed that people were going to get it, games would be postponed, or I don't think people really thought about it like to the next level.
Right.
And the NFL never actually released what they were going to do, which I think was smart on their end. It might have turned some people's heads. It would have been a controversy. So now that it's happened, they're going to unveil what's going to happen. So Tennessee is playing the Vikings on Sunday.
No, they played.
Oh, sorry. So the Vikings are under the protocol as well. So they are working remotely.
That's who they faced this past weekend.
My apologies from that one. But what I was, So the Titans are actually playing the Steelers, what was supposed to be this weekend. So looking to get into a Monday night football game scenario, or even a Tuesday night football scenario,
which I think is fair. So for example, the Tennessee Titans are going to be playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if the Tennessee Titans aren't getting into their facility until Saturday the earliest, and then they have to play a football game on Sunday, whereas the Steelers could have been practicing together in person all week, it's kind of an unfair advantage for the Steelers. And so I do believe that postponing the game till at least Monday night or Tuesday night was the best move. I think in the next 24, 48 hours, we will know the time and date of that game. Make it a Tuesday night. Give us literally give us a Monday night football game, Tuesday night football game, RFFNJ Wednesday, a Thursday night football game, and Saturday college football and Sunday football.
I'm with it. Football madness. Football. Just get a load of footballs and throw them at our faces.
To me, that's taking the lemons and turning it into lemonade.
Well, honestly,
not a bad deal.
I was, the news, came up, postponing the games when I was with my dad today, and we were talking about it, and we had raised, they didn't release what they were going to do. So then it came out possibly a Tuesday nighter. And I was like, you know what? Like, we got to be flexible at this point. Like, of course. I understand, like, maybe if it goes too soon, people will be like, well, they had more time. Like, we got to be flexible. We might be playing Wednesday night games in the future, which would really interrupt.
And to be honest, though, I think also if the NFL said to the Titans, hey, you guys are still going to be playing your game on Sunday. I know you're only getting into your facility on Saturday. Yeah. I think the players would have been like, hey, we got to roll with the punches. This is what it is. And we knew the season was going to be difficult in this regard. Yeah. And I think I was reading one quote from one of the players who was just like, if they get extra practice time or whatever, it's just part of being a professional football player, and you've got to be prepared no matter what the situation is.
Our third co-host has arrived. Tucker, you're a little late, my friend.
Coming in the
the show starts at 7:30 and you show up at what, 7:40? You're 10 minutes late.
Love this little baby.
Fire him.
He can punch him whenever he wants.
No, fire him. He's out. Fire Adam Gase. Fire Tucker Brower. He's out. He's out.
Oh my
Your
goodness.
key card's not going to work tomorrow morning, Tuck. He's out. He's out. But yeah, honestly, so something that was truly inevitable. It was going to happen. We, oh, there he goes. He clocking out. Clocked in for a minute.
He's like, fine. I'm fired. I'm fired.
I'm going to bed. He's got the right idea. I'd love to go to bed right now. But yeah, so obviously, and maybe week 3, we get it. We figure it out. Well, it's from week. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. It's better to happen early and just, what if this were to happen week 16 when teams are vying for playoff spots and need to win their week 16 game and they've only got one day of practice together? Then teams are going to complain about it.
And then absolutely too, even going into the playoffs, because that's the NFL doesn't take a break. They go right into it. So there's not, we can make up this game next Saturday. The next Saturday is the playoff. Like, you can't do that. So again, early on, I think it's too early on to see how this happens. They're all wearing those tracker bracelets. They know who's winning. They're going to try to understand, what did the team do last night? I'm sure everyone's being interviewed. What did you do when we got
And in the overall scheme of things, it is 8 people. And this is kind of like the first stuff we're really hearing of it since they've been like through August, like all practicing together in training camp. And so far, like in the grand scheme of things have been going well. Yeah. And this is to me a minor setback that it feels like, okay, they've got a handle on the situation. And I think it'll be okay.
Yeah. So yeah, but honestly,
so we hope,
and then obviously, the players and the personnel that tested positive, just all the best to them and hopefully speedy recovery.
That's the other thing I was thinking about. We don't know who these people are. They could be, Pro Bowlers. Did they come out with the names?
One on the Titans, and I'm blanking.
I didn't see the names yet.
Yeah, it was one person in particular.
Okay, all right. I'll have to look.
And it's a big name
because I wasn't sure.
It's not Derrick Henry.
Now you've got me intrigued.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to.
I saw it for a brief moment, and maybe it was one of those fake accounts, but I think it was.
All right,
I think it was real.
We'll see. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, moving forward, next big story of the night. We of course want to give you our thoughts from week 3. Obviously, we're going to be doing this every week because there's always huge things that we want to talk about from those games from the past week. The Atlanta Falcons, again, we just talked about them and Dan Quinn and the struggles of this team. They're 0-3 for the first time since 2007. And I think one of the worst parts about that is they lost to the Chicago Bears 30-26. It should have been a winnable game on their schedule. I'm going to talk about the Bears a little later on and get it off my chest. So I'll save that. But
wild stat out there though, because now this is like their third.
And they've been playing close games.
Yeah, now. So this is like their third blown lead, and I think there's a crazy stat out there that this has never happened to a team before. They are literally the first team in NFL history to blow 3 massive leads like that.
Right. So it's not like they're getting. So it's not like they're getting blown out. They're playing close games. They're giving up leads.
I would rather be blown out, to be honest.
I really thought last year with the Atlanta Falcons was a little bit of a fluke because they did end up ending on a strong note, which is why Dan Quinn kept his job. And to see them start off slow again, it's kind of like, who is this team? What is the identity of this team? You know what I mean? Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen, he continues to impress. He now has 300 plus passing yards in 3 straight games.
I love this kid.
I honestly really like watching him.
It's truly, he's one of those players that we talk about that you are just genuinely excited to watch. He is one of those kids, 100% kids. What am I talking about? He's like my age.
And I know his big knock, and I've always felt like, especially when he came in with that huge quarterback class, right? Those 5 quarterbacks that went in the first round.
Look at him shine right now.
And I remember his knock was always that he had a really, really, really low completion percentage. I mean, he would have like on a season like 58, 59%. That's really low. That would never cut it in the NFL. And I happened to check today, and I think he's completing like 71 or 72% of his passes. That's a massive, massive jump. Good for her.
Good for her.
And so the kid's playing really well, and we just want to know that.
You love to see it.
I do. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles, they finished in a 23-23 tie. There's nothing I hate more than that.
Did I predict
as much
the
as
Bengals
I hate
have a tie this year? Because I think I did.
Maybe, probably because they play in that division.
Someone
but it's
always-
usually you always say
against
within the
them.
division.
It's always like the Browns and the Steelers tying each other. Someone does though.
But listen, as much as I hate the Philadelphia Eagles, and there's nothing I love more than to see them lose, I'd almost rather them win than see it end in a tie. I hate the tie. It should never happen. Play a double OT. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. No.
But Carson Wentz, he now leads the league with 6 interceptions through 3 games. People are kind of questioning, what do you do with him? Do you bench him? Doug Peterson has been very vocal, especially this past week after this 3rd game, saying we're not even going to discuss that. Like, he's our quarterback.
So he's like the Nick Saban of the bunch, where it's like, so quit asking. I'm not going to answer.
Yeah, no,
Great
I
clip,
think,
clip.
yeah. So
obviously, I'm wearing my Bama shirt today because I'm just a little sad in the New York area, but Alabama area,
yeah, right?
I'm happy.
Yeah, at
Cruising
least you
into
got that,
week
girl.
2, wanna
At
know.
least you got that. This to me, I wanted to bring up. The strangest stat line ever. Tampa Bay wide receiver Mike Evans finished the game this past weekend. Only 2 catches for 2 total yards, yet 2 touchdowns.
Like,
you could never ever in a
2-2-2
million.
special.
That'll never
That's
ever
what you get
happen.
it- what do you get
That'll
that?
never
Yeah.
happen again in the history of NFL. It
Yeah.
probably has never happened before.
you get the 2-2-2 special
2 for
at,
2 for 2.
at IHOP. You get 2 eggs, 2 meats, and 2 pancakes. That's what you get.
There you go.
It's the Mike Evans
That's
special.
the Mike Evans.
Wait,
did the
so like
IHOP
McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, they're all collaborating with these famous influencer singers. Listen, IHOP, you got to go after Mike Evans because now that's the Mike Evans meal.
special. You got it.
The
The Mike
2-2-2.
Evans special. We'll never see it again.
You'll never see it again. I swear to God, if that happens, I get all the credit. I need royalties from IHOP.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't you dare. Copyright.
Pancakes for life, son.
Pancakes.
All right. So Seattle quarterback Russell Wilson, we're just going to keep talking about him. Same with Josh Allen until he proves us otherwise. He has 14 touchdowns through the first 3 games, which is an NFL
Phenomenal.
record.
Amazing.
He has 1 interception to go with that.
Amazing. Jeff. Amazing.
So he's continuing to just do his thing, and I appreciate his game. I really do. He's a great quarterback. The Kansas City Chiefs versus the Baltimore Ravens.
What a game.
This was not what a game,
but what a
this
game in an unexpected way.
Yes, this was the game we were waiting for because it was Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson, and we were going to see the top 2 teams in the NFL duke it out and probably go shot for shot, and it didn't happen that way.
Kansas City's a powerhouse.
I forget what the final score was, but it was Kansas City dominated.
Yeah.
The score was closer than what it actually felt like. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes, he's now the fastest quarterback in NFL history with 10,000 plus passing yards. And I think the most shocking stats of the night for me was Baltimore quarterback Lamar Jackson finished the night just 15 for 28 and just 97 passing yards and 1 touchdown.
Yeah. They read his stats at halftime, and that was like the glaring thing to me, that how low the numbers were. And I think the biggest and the best argument against the Ravens right now, and I heard it during the game.
Yeah.
From the person I was watching with, and then the next day on, I think it was Get Up.
I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
That the Ravens just can't come back. They have to dominate the game.
What I was going to say, what I've been hearing is that maybe Baltimore, specifically Lamar Jackson, does not do well in like prime time in playoff situations. I mean, granted, what happened to him in the playoffs in his rookie season where he like utterly flopped, he's a rookie.
No,
this is his first ever
can't
playoff
hold
game.
that against him.
I'm not going to hold that one on him. But now you've got people who are watching his big showdown against Mahomes on Monday Night Football, and you flop like that, people are going to start to chatter a little bit.
Absolutely. So the argument that I was hearing, though, was that the Ravens as a whole just cannot physically come back. They have to dominate from start to finish.
Yeah.
That coming back is difficult for them. And I get it. And maybe if you do have a quarterback who I don't want to
tries to do too much.
You could see how defeated he was, though, on the sideline, though. So I don't want to go as far as call it a flop. I don't want to, because I do have a lot of faith in him. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback, and he's going to lead the Ravens to big and better things, bigger and better things, I think, because he's already doing big things right now. But that you saw the look in his face, and it's the same look that we saw when he didn't do well in that playoff run as a rookie.
I think it was even though it's week 3 and whatever.
And
I think it
Kansas
was
City Chiefs.
Because it was to the Kansas City Chiefs, I do feel like this is an eye opener for people who assume that at the end of the day, at the end of the season, it's either going to be the Ravens or the Chiefs coming out of the AFC. They could potentially face each other in the AFC Championship game. And again, this is just week 3, but this is what we saw.
Right.
And so maybe it gives more validity to the Kansas City Chiefs and people being like, it's theirs to lose. And I said this when Patrick Mahomes got that contract, I was like, within the next 3 years, he's absolutely winning another one.
And there was some
this could be the start of a dynasty.
Week 1 and 2, that maybe the Chiefs were off to, a little bit of a slow start.
This just proves that
they're not at all.
It's theirs to lose, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so those are our week 3 thoughts. Again, the games have been great, been loving it, and I kind of can't believe we're already going into week 4. I just feel like it's just I can already feel that it's going by so quickly, and it happens every year. But
yeah,
this could also maybe be a year that I wouldn't mind flying by.
Well,
with how miserable it's been.
You never know. It's only week 3, so it's only week 4. Yeah. So let's see what happens this week. So
I'm not having fun so far.
Not well, B.
Not well.
I'll tell you how I'm doing. So as we do every single week, we are giving you our picks. Can't speak tonight. Picks for week 4. We are giving you all of them. We are also providing you with a lock and an upset.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead? I did pull it again this week from NFL.com, so I'll be on the same page as Katie. So why don't you go ahead and kick it off for us?
Sure.
What you got?
I did pretty bad last week, so I'm hoping for a turnaround.
I'm not even keeping count of this.
I felt kind of good about these picks. I feel like there were some more obvious
ones. It was an easier week.
Yes,
last week was pretty difficult.
Yes, so. Agreed. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going with the Denver Broncos, Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Seattle Seahawks, Houston Texans, New Orleans Saints, Dallas Cowboys, Cincinnati Bengals, Indianapolis Colts, Arizona Cardinals, Los Angeles Rams, Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles, and the Green Bay Packers. My lock is the Baltimore Ravens over the Washington football team. And I didn't say them before. I was going to say, did I call them the Redskins?
I think you just called them. I don't hear
I didn't because I didn't pick them. So I
literally have
a
football team right now.
And my upset, which kills me to say this, and I might not be able to sleep in my bed tonight, I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles over a still banged up San Francisco 49ers team.
Oh my God, I hope Chris isn't listening.
I hope my hubby isn't listening.
Katie's my new best friend.
No.
Looks like we're swapping at the end of the week. So.
You're in my house, I'm in yours.
We're switching households, so I guess that's how it's going. So the only thing that's a little bit off on mine is that I have the Steelers-Titans game at the end of my list because they switched it right before because it's the possible Tuesday night game. So bear with me there. So I am going with the Broncos, the Ravens, the Buccaneers, the Seahawks, Vikings, Lions, Cowboys, Bengals, Bears, Panthers, Rams, the Buffalo Bills, Chiefs, 49ers, Packers, and the Steelers. My lock is the Ravens over the Washington football team, and my upset is the Detroit Lions over the New Orleans Saints.
I did take note of that as you were going. When you said the Lions, I said, you know what? That's definitely her upset right there. It is an upset.
It is. I know they're both 1 and 2, but it is technically an upset.
But they're so different.
I know.
Such 1 and 2 Saints versus a 1 and 2 Detroit. Yeah. Those are teams that, although they have the same record, are not on the same level.
I was very close with picking the Browns over the Cowboys as well, but I did end up going more towards the Cowboys just because it's funny with the Browns. I think they have the first 500 record in where they are right now in so many bajillion years. Then they're probably popping champagne bottles every day since that W. So the Cowboys, on the other hand, they're getting the morale beat the crap out of them. week after week.
Yeah, you know what? They're still such a talented football team.
Went there.
They will get it together
because they can, make a joke out of a team like the Browns. So
maybe they think they don't need to take all the games so seriously because at the end of the day, they could still win the NFC East with like an 8-8 record.
That's not the case. But yeah, so I'm actually. It was a pretty interesting upset for me to pick, and I just,
I that was definitely an option. There weren't too many upset options.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was one that crossed my mind as well.
Yeah.
So it could happen for sure.
Oh, show.
All right, let's get into our big stories of the week in the world of housewives. We've been waiting to do this with you guys.
We've been waiting so long. That's not even a song. I don't know.
Oh my God,
it was good though. It was good though. That was.
I'm dead.
That was an original.
Wow, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. I'm dead.
All right. If Luann's listening, that's actually really good. I'm gonna pull that track, put some like beats behind it, send it to a recording studio.
I liked it. But we have definitely been waiting to do this and to talk about it. We briefly said little blips on the past couple weeks, but we've been waiting for the Roni reunion to be completely done, all 3 parts, to give you our opinions on it, a recap of it. It was that first in-person reunion since the pandemic hit, and so much to talk about. So we broke it down into all 3 parts. Not crazy long. We highlighted the main things. Okay, part 1, and we're gonna go through this here. Andy bringing up Dorinda's drinking and doing major reflecting. We did talk about that a bit on the show, but it was definitely a theme throughout. More than I think it came up again in part 3. She was very sensitive to anybody saying that she had any kind of, and they weren't even saying drinking problem, but she's very sensitive. And we did talk about that. But then we obviously had Dorinda versus Tinsley talk about that as well.
That gave me like the most anxiety, like out of everything, because that gave me anxiety during the actual season. So prior to like Tinsley's departure, it was, and I remember I responded to that one Bravo account one time because it was like, why is this the most random feud of all time?
It is.
And I literally responded back
like a one-sided feud.
And I was like, honestly, like this is so random. Like I don't understand what's going on, and it gives me anxiety. And like the account like replied back to me, and they were like literally same. Like I just don't know where it came from. So to see it again in reunion, like part 1, I was like, oh, here we go again.
Here's the point I want to make, and I would hope that you would agree with me, think that you would agree with me, even though I think I'm a little bit more of a fan of Tinsley's than you are.
Yeah.
I do feel like I was really proud of her at the reunion because she always had her voice trampled on throughout the season. The women, she had no voice,
right?
And she was like that lost little schoolgirl trying to raise her hand, trying to get her turn to speak.
Squealing,
and and she was squealing because nobody would listen to her. And I feel like she really went to that reunion and she stuck to her guns, and she was kind of finally like the tough bee that I wanted her to be, and like put her foot down and be like, no, I don't accept your apology, which is good because it wasn't genuine.
No, absolutely.
And I was really proud of how she left. I really was.
I can agree with you for sure. I think a lot of times too, even when things were coming at her, she would just, kind of shrug it off, like, dirt off her shoulders, just like kind of look the other way. When in the past, she would start crying, she would squeal a little bit. So you're right. She did put her foot down and go back at the women and had a voice where she was allowed to. But then also when things were thrown at her that were complete nonsense, she took none of it.
And I'm glad about that too, because at some point she needed to say to herself, I'm happy with my life.
Yeah.
I'm happy with my relationship. I'm happy with me leaving the show. I'm happy with me moving to Chicago.
Yeah.
I don't owe anybody anything. My happiness is number 1.
When I leave this reunion, I'm going back to Chicago to my happy life.
Right. So I felt like why let anything bring her down when she is living her best life?
Literally.
So, of course, we talked about this as well, finding out that Tinsley felt the reason that Dorinda didn't like her is because she was very mad at the fact that Scott had loaned John money. And the biggest bombshell to me of the whole entire reunion, all 3 parts, was when the receipts were pulled. Dorinda completely denied that ever took place, that money was ever given. And they pulled the receipts of her screaming at John on the phone, unseen footage, by the way. It never aired, which I feel like they should have aired.
Oh, 100%.
That was juicy. Okay.
We've been defending Dorinda
that
for
was
so
very
long.
juicy.
I have never seen
she screamed screamed at John, "Don't you ever take money. He's not your friend."
Yeah.
Like berated him. It really made me feel bad for John.
She literally ripped his testicles out of his body and threw him in a blender.
As much as like I really started to enjoy John and like their relationship, I also am happy that
I think
it's
we got
over.
comfortable with it.
Doesn't work. I like John as a person, but I'm happy they're not together anymore.
Yeah.
It wasn't working.
I agree.
Yeah, so that was the biggest bombshell, in my opinion, of all three parts. Part 2, we see the last of Tinsley, and again gets a half-ass apology from Dorinda. I do like the little part about Dorinda potentially hinting that she is seeing someone new, because Andy asked her, like, are you dating? Are you seeing anybody? But she's keeping it mum. We have no. I
wonder who it is.
Shocked page 6 has not like uncovered
I
something.
know.
But in the world of the coronavirus, especially in New York City, people are laying low.
It could be someone like virtual for all we know. I know that was a big thing.
A DL lover, down low lover.
Yeah, it was a huge thing during coronavirus. Like all the dating apps were, okay, and full disclosure, I was single during the height of the pandemic. So I know what the dating app scene was. GTs. Like they were all like encouraging like video calls, like don't meet up in person. I'm not saying that Dorinda's on Bumble, but she could have been on one of the adult ones, or she could have had a matchmaker. That's a huge thing.
I can't wait for it to break. I hope it breaks soon. Page 6, uncover this. Somebody leak this story.
Seriously.
Because it seems as though some of the women know a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Okay. This to me was hilarious. Obviously, they had to address the Leah versus Ramami, and how, of course, Ramona held Leah at a different standard than the other women. 100%. Definitely wrong. Ramona was wrong for bringing up her mental health on the show.
And this cringy made me so cringy.
And I think the part that was important for viewers to like really have it be put into perspective was the fact that Leah said, my daughter didn't know any of this about me, and I had to then sit her down and explain to her things. And that's a part of being on Housewives, and things will come up, and maybe just don't have. Her daughter's 13. It's a fine line of that age of like, do I let her watch this? Do I not?
Yeah.
I don't know.
She don't watch.
Things are going to come out, but honestly, it did feel like if it was going to come out on the show, that was Leah's right to do so and talk about it and inform people about that part of her life, rather than Ramona say something.
I hated like this. So this whole part made me I was cringing the entire time, because I didn't like when Ramona brought it up during the season.
Yeah.
During the reunion was just so much worse, because she also starts pulling these stats out of her asshole, where she's like, well, did you know like 1 in 3 people are depressed and take antidepressants?
Came with receipts that were just annoying.
And Leah was like, this has nothing to do with 1 in 3 people being on antidepressants. Like that has nothing to do with being bipolar or whatever she has. Like, and she was like, and I was drunk. How dare you say my actions were because of my mental illness? Yeah. And she was like, and if I wanted to talk to someone about mental illness, like I would.
I mean, it would be almost as like, it would be, and it not necessarily the two are the same, but like, for example, like if Leah was a lesbian, but she wasn't out, and then somebody outed her on the show. Yeah. I mean, having mental health issues is a really private thing. And we always commend the people that use their platforms to talk about really difficult things like that. But it's also really understandable for the people that want to keep those things private.
Absolutely.
So yes.
In a sense, they are coming out in that nature.
We did come to a really good resolution in part 3 at the end. Andy did ask the women, like, what do you kind of regret?
Yeah.
And Ramona said, my biggest regret was bringing up Leah's mental health thing. I should have talked to her about that off camera.
I don't think
she also did say that, and like they were laughing and they were good towards the end. They resolved, right? Because Leah is just like, all right, I'll let it roll off my back, whatever. I did like when Ramona said at the very end of part 3, Leah, I am going to try to be more of a friend to you than a mother figure. Mom, and I think that will be good for their relationship.
Because it's true. I mean, literally the entire season, and they did pull up the clips of the whole season where Ramona just took the time to judge her on everything. Yeah. And like, it was funny. She actually agreed with Dorinda on one thing because Ramona went after Dorinda on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And Leah's like, listen, I feel you. I felt every step I took this season. Ramona was there getting ready to judge me. And she goes, and I saw you do some things. She was like, you weren't right with a lot of the things you did, but other things she was there too, ready to judge you, ready to go after you.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but like such a wild ride we've been through over the past couple of months with these ladies.
Absolutely.
And just drained again by a third reunion. Like, let's wrap it up
I didn't feel it was that bad. We've had a lot worse reunions where part 3 comes and we don't even want to watch it. So I felt like, and you can always kind of count on the New York women that no matter if it even does get to a cutthroat level, these are the women out of all the cast that at the end of the day can kind of laugh at the end and still be friends, and they genuinely are.
Yeah.
Part 3, Ramona versus Dorinda. Obviously, Ramona felt Dorinda was super harsh. She was the one trying to confront her throughout the whole season, being like, why are you doing this? Why are you behaving this way? We love you. We're your friends. We just want you to be nice to us. Like,
seriously.
So Dorinda basically tries to then turn to victim and say, I was having a really, really hard time in my life, Ramona, and I felt like you specifically were making it worse. You never checked in on me while we were filming the show. You never texted me to be there for me or asked me how I was doing. It wasn't until after the show that you did that.
Yeah.
Which then Ramona actually pulled out the receipts, pages and pages of text messages of her sending text messages to Dorinda during filming, being like, I love you. Like, let's just let it go. Like, I'm here for you, whatever. And Dorinda didn't want to hear it. Ramona ends up throwing her pages of receipts, which one of my favorite parts of the entire reunion was when Andy like
crawled on the
like
floor.
A little mouse to cheese, like picked up the pieces of paper because Ramona was like, Andy, you can read it later if you want.
He was like this.
Okay. Like,
but then he went back and
he was literally reading them. I love that. That was my favorite part.
Like literally risked coronavirus to get the receipts. Like literally.
My favorite part, hands down. I feel like at the next BravoCon, like he needs to put that in like the display section. Like here were the receipts from that.
I want to see
you
that.
Can read them now.
Absolutely.
But again, as much as like I couldn't stand Ramona this season, it did feel as though Dorinda, like, stop. You were wrong.
Yeah.
Just you were wrong. This was not on Ramona.
I was truly going through as hard of a time as Dorinda said she would, and a lot of the stuff that she said she was struggling with, I would struggle with as well. She got emotional during the season. She was in no way in shape or form emotional during this reunion. There was no struck of emotion on her face. There was no struck of remorse on her face, no tear, anything like that. And she tried to genuinely apologize, but there was no genuine aspect to it. So I'm very disappointed in that.
Yeah.
Because if you truly are sorry for your actions and there was so much you needed to be sorry for, I would have been sobbing. I would have been embarrassed.
They played all the clips.
Everything.
Andy called you out.
Yeah.
All the women called you out. There was one part where I was like, ooh, like in your gut, you feel it when Luann was like, you don't watch that and say, I can't believe I said that to Lou.
Yeah.
And it's
some
true.
Fake cry, and like we can tell when these women are
Ramona.
pulling bullshit like real quick. Like we even saw Lou, like when she talked about like her dad, like those were true tears.
Yeah.
Like that was raw emotion. Like Dorinda, like I'm sorry, like, and this is coming from two of your biggest fans.
Right,
like
absolutely.
If you really truly felt sorry for this and were embarrassed and just we would have felt it from you, and I didn't at all, and that truly disappointed me. I defended her up until like the very last minute, and like this reunion,
I gave
like
up
really,
on her like definitely midway through the season.
I did not.
And this is my you guys all know this is my number one house.
It's been itchy all episode.
But then they also end the reunion. Dorinda finally is somewhat apologetic, but more specifically to Luann. Obviously, she made more than one comment again this season while she was under the influence of alcohol, commenting on the fact that Luann was arrested, that she has a mugshot. It's truly,
like we know. Can we just like ban that? Like or
that should never come out of her mouth ever.
Any of the women, they should be like they should all wear shock collars.
I really like can't believe because it happened the season before, and it was like the worst part of the season. Like, oh my God, you said that, and then it just flew out of her mouth.
And now
on more than one occasion this past season. Couldn't believe it. And honestly, she gave a really what I felt was her most sincere apology to Luann during the reunion. But it kind of starts to feel like a Ramona apology, like the boy who cried wolf. Like if every time you're going to drink, you bring up that worst part of my life and you use that against me. It's one thing if it happens once and you feel terrible about it. I'm going to believe you feel terrible about it. But when you've done it 3 times now, that's when I start to question, like,
and I think like you're right. Like when it happens the first time, like the world was like, holy shit, did that just happen?
Yeah.
And I think the whole room shook. The next 2 times came out of her mouth like, hi, I'm Dorinda. That's as easy as that. Came out like,
especially when Luann was basically sober, saying like, hey, like the other women like are feeling this way, or like we just want to be there for you. She would literally be like, I love you, you're my friend. She'd be like, you got a mug shot. Like, oh, okay.
Like when it starts coming out of your mouth so easily, like, and it's just like another day in the life, another word, another phrase that you say, like that's a problem. That's not okay.
Yeah. So,
and you can't say that to your friends.
No.
Like like, listen, and this is coming from a big bitch. Like I'm not a very nice person sometimes. Like there are just things that you just do not say.
No.
And you just cannot throw certain things in your friends' faces.
Never.
And there's even times where maybe I've been a little bit mean and I'm like, oh God, and you like sit. How does it not sit with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And exactly what Luann said. How do you watch that and not feel
and not like flinch?
I know.
Absolutely.
I look at myself on this podcast sometimes. I'm like, ugh. Ooh, that's what I look and sound like? Oh, no wonder why no one likes us.
So any final thoughts? Anything you want to say before we wrap that up?
It was a wild season for sure. I think the reunion was a telltale sign of all of that. It was a good recap of everything. I'm very curious to see what next season will look like without Dorinda, without Tinsley full-time, obviously. We've obviously spoken about a couple of new potential noobs.
Right.
Leah kind of molding into now her second season.
Almost the star, like the new star. You know what I mean?
Going into sophomore year as a housewife. But I'm looking forward to newer shows to watch right now. It's one of those shows that really tugs at you mentally. It's mentally exhausting.
Housewives is about 22 regular season episodes, and then you have about 3 episodes of a 3-part reunion. That's 25 episodes.
Yeah.
It is a long season compared to other shows that you might watch in your life. And by the end of it, you do feel emotionally drained.
Yeah.
So, but I enjoyed it. These women, I really do love these women. And
right.
I know that we are losing Dorinda. I know we've lost Bethany. I know that Tinsley's going. I still feel so confident about this group. I love watching them.
Yeah.
They still they always make me laugh. As much drama or bad times, the laughs are way more. And that's what I love about this franchise. And I can't wait to see.
I don't know. I think the New Jersey men might make us laugh a little bit more.
They do. They are deftly at the top of the list,
Bravo.
For sure.
If you're listening, start the Real House Husbands of New Jersey.
Yeah.
So housewife.
Hubbies.
Is there no male equivalent to that? House husband?
A house hubby. I don't know. House hubby.
Well, housewife's like a word, which is so
stay-at-home dad. I don't know.
The statties. The zaddies. Isn't zaddy something? Daddy. The daddies of New Jersey.
The daddies of New Jersey.
Honestly, started. That would viewers up.
I would like it. Those
all
guys
around the world. Up. All right, so let's get into our second story of the week with a former New York housewife with Miss Bethany Frankel. And this is a pretty hold on to your seats, kind of a bombshell update here.
Yep.
But so she was on Watch What Happens Live, which obviously is still going on every single week remotely.
Every day. Every night.
It's every night? I thought it was once a week.
No.
Really?
It's every single night.
This is how I'm far behind with the times. I'm so far behind on all my shows.
I have been watching Watch What Happens.
No one tell me what happened on The Masked Singer because I've missed the past 2 weeks.
I've been watching the most Watch What Happens Live directly after I watch. I'm a big Below Deck fan.
And
so as soon as those episodes end, it goes into Watch What Happens Live, and he always has people from the show on. So I have been watching a lot of it
during quarantine. I know I suck. I'm the worst.
No, it's okay.
No, but I've gotten behind all my shows. So on Thursday, Andy had Bethany on, We got full life update.
Yeah.
Big time.
Big time, right?
So starting off with Be Strong and helping out during COVID-19.
Yeah.
Donating thousands of masks at a reduced price, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, which is, because at the height of it, things were going for so much money because it was just ridiculous.
Right.
People hoarding
Hot
stuff.
commodities.
Yeah. So reduced price and 20 million units of personal protective equipment, also known as PPE, including 1 million hazmat suits to New York City, one of the biggest hotspots during this. So honestly, she's doing it. She's amazing. So was asked if her and Paul, her current boo thing, thought about marriage. So it is revealed that she's actually still married to Jason, which is Wild and Crazy Kids. Great show on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Nearly decade-long divorce battle is still ongoing. So, and it's because Jason is a prick and a half.
You never knew, like, while you were watching in the midst of it on, like, Bethany Ever After and, like, when they got married and anything, that this was ever in their future. And the fact that this is still ongoing when Bethany, like, is continuing her life with a really happy and healthy relationship.
Even finally showing Avery on camera.
And it's not her first relationship since the split.
Yeah.
And to think that she can't move on in the capacity that maybe she would want to. I don't know if she wants to get married to Paul or not.
Right.
But even if she didn't, the fact that she's still a married woman is like, puts a little asterisk next to her name.
Wanted to get married to what's his face?
Dennis.
They were engaged.
Yes, I did for a hot second forget.
His name for a second. I feel
Dennis, but yeah, and I mean, you can't actually really fully move on. And again, even if she never wanted to get married again in her life, the fact, like, you don't want to be dating someone that you truly love and be like, oh, you're technically dating a married woman. Yeah. So that was a huge shock. I know Andy, because I think it also said that reports came out in 2016 that it was finalized. So I think people were under that impression.
Yeah.
I know Andy was, because when Andy asked her the question, do you and Paul talk about getting married? And she dropped that, Andy was like shocked.
Okay,
he was like,
what?
You are literally killing me.
Shook us.
Yeah.
So honestly, that was a huge bombshell that we did learn this week. But honestly, who are their give me their divorce. Can I not say the word divorce? Divorce lawyers. Give me their numbers. This is ridiculous.
This is so bad. I'd be like, give him at that point. I'd be like, give him whatever he wants.
Seriously, come on, B. You do so well for yourself. Get rid of it. Her podcast, I know her podcast is doing really well. She's up in like, it hasn't even launched yet, and she's in they're doing like the pre, so they did like the pilot, I think.
Okay.
And it's in like the top 10 across like multiple categories. Like good for you.
Not necessarily surprised.
No,
She's
good for you. I got to take a listen. So in a separate interview on ET, so Entertainment Tonight, Bethany was asked about her friendship with Dorinda. And how the two are working on a project together. So there is a quote about that we do have from Bethany. So we've gotten really much closer, and it is better that we got closer not being on the show, because it means that it's not because of the show. So she and we are very good at giving advice to each other, life advice. I think she is a great person. So we did see that post on Instagram that I did send over to you.
They've been hanging out a lot.
Hanging out in a city. There's a pumpkin involved, I think. So that's always fun, grabbing a pumpkin with your friend. But yeah, so that I know that post sparked a couple of comments and things from people. So I'm interested to see with what they're working on.
Project is. Yeah, very intrigued. But
I'm trying to think of like all the things that Dorinda has done over the past couple of years. Maybe like philanthropy wise, like I'm trying to think of like where it would connect. But I mean, because obviously Bethany,
she's just gonna open up a aerobics studio.
Honestly,
and Bethany's gonna help her.
I don't know for it. She should, because I would go.
I'm about it. Yes.
100%. But yeah, so that is that's it there. So big updates, obviously, from the Roni world, and just housewives in general. But yeah,
I'm gonna miss it. I'm sad that it's over.
I
know it always feels like a big exhale. Okay. But I do love my Roni women. So
I've got so much to catch up on those. Like I'm kind of happy that it's
catch up time now.
It's catch up time.
All right. Well, let's get into our game of the week. It's kind of playing off of last week. It is called Tale of Week 4. Who's reached the ceiling? Who hit the floor? So for the Week 4 games, we were looking at each matchup and telling you which player we think will have the better game. We did this last week with quarterbacks. This week, we are looking at wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends. It could be any of those combos. And we talked about last week how we potentially wanted to do this. And we've got some good ones here for you, and we'll go through them one by one with these matchups. Okay, so we have the Denver Broncos versus the New York Jets. That is the Thursday night football game. Who will have the better game? Running back Melvin Gordon or running back Frank Gore? Oh, man, Gore.
Oh, man, Gore. The Jets are such a dumpster fire, but oh, man, Gore, he's moving and grooving, so I'm going to go with him on this one.
So I'm actually going with Melvin Gordon specifically because of circumstance. We do have Brett Rypien, who's going to be starting at quarterback for the Denver Broncos for an injured Drew Lock. So I really do feel like Denver is going to heavily rely on the run game. I am going with Melvin Gordon. All right, the Baltimore Ravens versus the Washington football team. We have wide receiver Marquise Brown or wide receiver Terry McLaurin.
I'm going with Marquise Brown.
Okay. I'm actually going opposite on this one. I'm going Terry McLaurin. Brown has been shut out of like 2 of the 3 games. Yeah. So he has the tendency to either have a really big game or completely get shut out and disappear. I feel as though Terry McLaurin's been a little more consistent. So although I do think this will be a big win for Baltimore, it is both of our locks. I am going with McLaurin.
I think it's fair. I think that, as discussed of a big, domination by the Kansas City Chiefs, who knows what the Ravens went back to the drawing board with this week? Who knows what Jim Harbaugh sat down with Lamar Jackson and spoke about and said, listen, maybe we have to look at things a little bit differently. While, listen, you can throw the ball really well, you can run the ball really well, you can pass it off to your running backs really well. Maybe we should look at certain areas, looking at the line, looking at other threats on offense. So maybe he doesn't get shut out in this game.
Right.
So,
looking at Marquise Brown, we need to get him involved in the game more.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with you on past games. But listen, they might reshape things completely.
Absolutely.
And I think it's because for them, that was a huge setback Monday night.
It was a little bit of a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Like, we're not invincible. Like, we can be beat.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
All right. Next, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Tennessee Titans. Again, this is going to be a game that will either be played on Monday Night Football or Tuesday Night Football. Wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster or wide receiver Corey Davis.
So for me, when it comes to Tennessee, I just immediately, assume running games. You have a guy like Derrick Henry. And when it comes to the Steelers, oh my God, I forgot his name on the podcast.
James Conner.
Yes. I forgot.
I was in Thailand. I'll never forget. People don't forget.
See, people don't forget.
I remembered.
I clearly forget. So you have James Conner in the run. You're, dealing with an injury right now. So Big Ben's going to be a little bit more comfortable, probably throwing the ball a little bit more. And listen, he's not looking too shabby. So for that reason, I'm going with Juju Smith-Schuster. For that reason, I'm out.
So I actually am using what's going on with the COVID situation as an edge for Juju Smith-Schuster. He will,
and that is also a very fair point.
He will get more practice time because I do feel like it is kind of even. So you're getting the slight edge that way. I just want to note that I'm not super impressed with either one of these guys so far through this season, especially Juju. I mean, expectations after Juju's rookie year were huge. Then Antonio Brown left, and he was the guy last year, and people wondered how he would respond to that. He didn't have that great of a year, and now you're starting off a little sluggish as well. Yeah. This is a big year for Juju. He's really got to prove, yes, I am the man, and you can count on me. All right, next game, the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Tampa Brady Buccaneers.
The Tampa Brady, I love it. To me, the Chargers.
Oh, I'm sorry. And our matchup, because I only said the teams, we have this is a good one. I mean, you have some of the top wide receivers in the league here. We have wide receiver Keenan Allen or wide receiver Mike Evans.
So I think for me, this is like it's based on the matchup. So you have Tom Brady as your quarterback throwing to your wide receiver. So I'm going to go with Mike Evans on this one. So, hey, throw away your 2-2-2 special here. Listen, if he's getting you 2 touchdowns, that's super important. Keenan Allen, nothing against him. Phenomenal wide receiver.
He's like top 5 in receiving.
But then also, who do we know who's starting this weekend for the Chargers?
We don't.
Are we going
Justin Herbert looks good again.
He does.
I keep rolling with him.
He does, but the Chargers as a whole, I still feel like give me a question mark every time I'm looking at them and I'm thinking about them week over week. So I think for me, this is more of just a confidence pick. And so that's why I went with Mike Evans.
So I also went with Mike
Mhm.
Evans, but I want to point out the fact that
Should we agree?
Yes,
Finally.
but I want to point out to the fact that the majority of you guys probably took
Mhm.
Mike Evans very early in your fantasy football drafts.
I have him on 2 teams.
And you've probably been wildly disappointed so far.
That's
so
not terrible.
for Mike Evans, he has
I did start AJ Green over him for 1 week.
He only has 108 receiving yards through 3 games. If you're a top receiver, like you normally have 108 yards in just 1 game. That equates to only 36 yards per game.
Right.
That's very low. Yet at the same time, he has 4 touchdowns. So he has been that red zone threat that we always, expect of him.
Right.
I do feel like this is finally going to be the breakout game for him yards wise.
All
It
right.
has to be. It can't continue like this.
All righty.
Okay. Next one, we have the Seattle Seahawks versus the Miami Dolphins. We have running back Chris Carson. And I want to point out, if he's potentially not picked up in your fantasy league, a little bit of a surprise guy here. Running back Myles Gaskin.
We
He's
definitely
been
saw
playing very
him
well.
a lot last Thursday night. I know it was not everyone's favorite game to watch, the Jags against the Dolphins, but I thoroughly enjoyed the game. So I thought it was actually turned out to be a really good one. We did see Myles Gaskin a lot there.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give him the upper hand here too, because Chris Carson's actually a little bit, he's not fully hurt, but there is some questions with his ankle after a very questionable foot grab by what's his name on the Cowboys, where he basically wanted to pull his foot off.
I hope my guys on this list aren't accidentally injured. I didn't fully look at the injury report this week.
He's not full, but he's it's shaken up, kind of hurt. So and Chris Carson, though, I've had him on my fantasy, and I know
him.
This isn't a fantasy podcast, but I'm just saying, I've had him on my.
I think he's a little bit underrated.
He's a little underrated, but then he's sometimes it's every other week or things like that. So you gotta, and if you're matching up against a running back who is kind of coming out of the blue and just doing really good things for a Miami team that's not really highlighted in other spots. So that's why I went ahead and gave the upper hand to Myles Gaskin.
I did go Chris Carson. If you actually look at these guys are actually both really good, not only in the run game, but also in the passing game as well. They have a lot of receiving
yards. Which we're seeing a lot more this season, I think.
Yeah.
I know it's only been 3 games.
To tell you the truth, you know how with quarterbacks today, you don't have to be a dual threat quarterback, but you need to be able to run at least somewhat. That's how I feel Daniel Jones is, right?
Absolutely.
You need to be able to somewhat be athletic enough to pick up a first down with your feet.
Yeah.
I also feel like that is how running backs are today in the NFL. You need to be able to catch. It's kind of why a guy like Andre Williams for the Giants a couple years ago, right? He was the #1 rushing running back in college football. He had his, I think he set a record. His rushing yards were astronomical. But he was only drafted in the 4th round because he had stones for hands. Yeah. He couldn't catch. In today's league, you need an Alvin Kamara, a Dalvin Cook. You need to be able to do everything.
Absolutely. Great point.
So both of these guys, if you look at them statistically, are actually almost dead even. But the only difference, Chris Carson has 3 touchdowns. Gaskin has yet to find the end zone. Yeah. I'm giving the edge to Chris Carson.
All right.
Okay, Minnesota Vikings versus the Houston Texans, 2 really surprising 0-3 teams, right?
Yeah.
We have wide receiver Adam Thielen or wide receiver Will Fuller.
It was kind of just one of those ones where I just had to pick.
It's like a gut feeling.
So I went with Adam Thielen.
I went with Will Fuller. Again, kind of a gut pick for me as well. Thielen has been shut out of the last 2 games. He has not been.
I do also think though that this might be the game where the Vikings someone
that's
punches
where
them,
it's so hard,
smacks them in the face, and is like, "What are you doing?"
When you see teams struggling that you know are good, or when you see teams, when you see players like Adam Thielen, who you know are good.
Yeah.
And how I just brought up Mike Evans. This has got to be the game he does something.
Yeah.
It could be a situation like this has got to be the game that the Vikings and Adam Thielen do something.
Yeah.
So I think that's a toss-up. Okay, our only tight end matchup on this list, but I think this was a perfect one to highlight. I like both of these guys. The New Orleans Saints versus the Detroit Lions. This is Caitlin's upset pick, the Lions over the Saints. We have tight end Jared Cook or tight end TJ Hawkins.
Well, I do have the Lions winning in an upset.
Yeah.
I am going to go with tight end Jared Cook because this is another scenario where, listen, they're taking their time with Michael Thomas as they should. I'm not sure if he's coming back week 4, week 5. It's not fully set in stone yet. The last what we heard from last week is that they are taking their time with him. He could have been ready for last week, but they're just really, and I would honestly don't ever rush someone like that. Listen,
it also helps that there's going to be an extra playoff team too.
Yeah,
so like let him get healthy.
Breaks.
Yeah.
We've seen though how randomly Drew Brees is essentially struggling.
Yeah.
And I don't want to pull the struggle bus card and say he sucks because that is not the case at all. But there's something missing. And maybe it's that quick handoff that quick 5-yard pass that he can get to Michael Thomas and shoot off and go. He's obviously doing great things with Alvin Kamara. But listen, again, like I said before, with the Ravens going back to the drawing board and thinking of other things, we need to get Drew Brees in the picture more often and look at other things. So he's going to go to his tight end. Okay. So that's why I think he's got the one up here.
I actually went with TJ Hawkinson. I do feel like as though
I'm disagreeing a lot.
That's okay.
So
but I feel like honestly, a lot of these are super close.
You
can make arguments for both.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost better that we're going opposite and giving our reasonings. TJ Hawkinson.
Oh no.
By Instagram.
Oh no. Okay. Logs us out.
TJ Hawkinson, I know I talked about Mark Andrews, tight end for the Baltimore Ravens, how this is his breakout year in regards to he's going to get on Kelsey and Kittle level.
Yeah.
Right. I also want to say that I think this is a breakout year for TJ Hawkinson, not on that level,
right,
but personally a breakout year for him. And I do feel he's been more consistent. I like him. I liked him when he was drafted. I think he's going to be a great player for the Lions. I'm going with him. All right, the Cleveland Browns versus the Dallas Cowboys. This is another one of my favorite ones on this list, this matchup. Running back Nick Chubb or running back Zeke Elliott. I mean, these are two top running backs in the league.
I'm going with Nick Chubb on this one.
Okay.
I mean, no real rhyme or reason behind it. I mean, maybe it's more so because I've been able to actually watch the Cowboys games, a lot of them, and see everything. Obviously, Zeke's doing Zeke things,
Right.
But to me, what I'm seeing behind the scenes from Nick Chubb is a little bit just more explosive. And I even said before, I almost picked the Browns as an upset over this, Cowboys teams. It's kind of questionable, kind of flated, not really know what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and give the upper hand to Chubb here.
Funny that you said that you feel going with Chubb because you almost even gave the Browns the upset here. I only gave it to Zeke because I feel like Dallas is going to be the winning team because I did make a note. This is a very close one.
This really
so
is.
I'm just going to give it to who I think is going to win the game.
Yeah.
All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Wide receiver Keelan Cole or wide receiver AJ Green?
Listen, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Joe Burrow, and I do like his chemistry already with AJ Green, so I'm going with AJ Green on this one.
I went with AJ Green.
Go off, boys.
He's been very quiet so far, but Cincinnati will win this game, and I believe that Green will finally make an impact in this one. Indianapolis Colts versus Chicago Bears. Rookie running back Jonathan Taylor versus running back David Montgomery.
I am going with David Montgomery because I do think Nick Foles is a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky, and he even came out and proved it last week. Give this team a week of practice. He's going to do a lot better with this running back. So
okay. I'm going with the guy who I've been, giving a lot of love and a lot of praise to, Jonathan Taylor, rookie. I've really been liking him so far. And again,
he's doing a great job.
He is now kind of the main guy with injuries, Marlon Mack and everything like that. And I like what I've seen so far.
Yeah.
All right, the Arizona Cardinals versus the Carolina Panthers. We have wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. I know he's the man, but also versus wide receiver Robbie Anderson, who's really been playing well with his new Carolina Panthers team.
Yeah. And listen, I feel like I'm probably on the side where it's listen, DeAndre Hopkins is the man, and to me, he could do no wrong. Right. I did pick the Panthers to win this game, and I do want to see a lot more bigger and better things for my boy Teddy. And he'll probably definitely sync with Robbie Anderson a lot more. But I'm going to go with DeAndre Hopkins here.
Yeah, I went with D Hop as well. And listen, I do want to give love to Robbie Anderson because when I was looking at it today, D Hop is first in receiving yards in the league. But Robbie Anderson, if you have him on your fantasy team, he's sixth in receiving yards right now. He's always been that deep threat guy.
He wins some games week after week.
Yeah. So I like what he's doing, especially when you're on a new team.
Yeah.
COVID didn't allow you to necessarily practice with them as much.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have preseason games. You're learning a new offense.
Right.
I'm really impressed with what Robbie Anderson is doing, but I am going Hopkins. All right, our New York Giants versus the Los Angeles Rams. We have so many banged up people. It's like, who do we talk about?
I don't
But
know.
we still have wide receiver Darius Slayton versus wide receiver Cooper Kupp.
Listen, I love the Daniel Jones, Darius Slayton connection.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't really see it as much as we wanted to last week. I want to see it like 3 times for touchdown completions, like a game, like, you know what I mean? Because that's how good the connection is. We know it's good. But listen, Cooper Kupp went off last weekend, and maybe that was his weekend to step out and be like, all right, here I am for the year. It's a safer pick for me, so I'm going with Cooper Kupp.
Went with Cooper Kupp. I feel like my 2 points are very valid. The New York Giants can't get anything going offensively, and even more of a valid point for me is the Los Angeles Rams defense. Aaron Donald is very tough.
I'm scared.
Also, Jalen Ramsey, with all the injuries, is probably going to be covering Darius Slayton. I mean, he might not see the ball at all.
Yeah. Mom, can you pick me up? I'm scared. That's going to be me on Sunday. I'm going to call from my own home to my mom to come pick me up because I'm scared of Aaron Donald.
Yep. All right, we got the Buffalo Bills. This time I did mark it down correctly on our notes. The Las Vegas Raiders.
Look at her go. Look at her go.
Wide receiver Cole Beasley versus wide receiver Hunter Renfrow. Kind of these guys put me to sleep a little bit.
Yeah, but I got to tell you,
they're okay, but
I love Cole Beasley more in a Buffalo Bills jersey than a Dallas Cowboys jersey. And not just because of the rivalry. I just like him better on that team. I think he fits in a lot better, and I think the chemistry's there with him and Josh Allen. So I'm going with Cole Beasley.
Went with Cole Beasley as well, strictly only because I believe in the Buffalo offense more.
The Boofs.
Okay, the New England Patriots versus the Kansas City Chiefs. We have wide receiver Julian Edelman versus wide receiver Tyreek Hill.
I'm going with Tyreek Hill because Cam Newton is a selfish quarterback, and he would rather run the ball than pass it off to Julian Edelman. And Patrick Mahomes is not selfish, and we'll give it to Tyreek Hill.
Went with Tyreek Hill as well. Been more consistent. Plays in a better offense. Point blank. All right. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the San Francisco 49ers. This is my upset pick of the week. Running back Miles Sanders versus a little bit of a banged up, but so far impressive, what we've seen. Running back Raheem Mostert.
But hey, impressive of what we saw last week. So
also, this is the one where I don't know if Mostert is playing this weekend, but you know.
But I went with
We're going to imagine a world that he is.
That's what I went with.
Okay. And I gave the slightest little edge to Miles Sanders because if Mostert plays, he's banged up. But overall, in the grand scheme of things, I've been really impressed with Mostert. And people who rolled the dice a little bit and picked him in fantasy football, if he can stay healthy the rest of the season, I think people are going to be pleased with him on their team. All right. And finally, the Atlanta Falcons versus the Green Bay Packers.
The Green Bay Panthers.
Woo!
Brand new
somebody
team.
who really, I mean, we always talk about how the Atlanta Falcons have that dynamic wide receiver core, right? But somebody who came out of the woodwork.
Literally.
I just want to mention that Calvin Ridley and this player, wide receiver Russell Gage, both have more receiving yards than Julio Jones right now. Okay, all three of them healthy.
Battling an injury, but Julio's always a question mark in my opinion.
And again, Julio's probably facing everybody's number one DB, but Russell Gage coming out of nowhere. Again, another guy who might have not been picked up in fantasy football, and you might want to give him a little peek. So wide receiver Russell Gage versus wide receiver Allen Lazard.
I'm going to go with Allen Lazard on this one. Okay. It's more so, I guess, because I just have bigger and better faith in the Packers this weekend. What I've seen from the Falcons is giving me flashbacks to last year with the Falcons, where I was just emotionally distraught with them week after week, and I just have no real confidence anymore.
This was another gut pick for me, but I went with Allen Lazard as well. But I did want to point out that Gage is quietly 15th in the league in receiving yards. So again, I would say Gaskin and Gage. These are two guys that probably were not drafted in your leagues and might still not be on a team right now. I would check them out.
And hey, listen, for everything that's going on with COVID, like they're going to count Tuesday night as a week 4 thing. But if it doesn't happen Tuesday, like you guys have to be looking around and like moving things. It's not just bye weeks that are going to screw you anymore.
Didn't think about that.
Literally, coronavirus is going to screw you. Literally, in more ways than one.
About that.
Yeah. So you got to think. Today I was like going on like everything. I was like, oh my god, you got to claim your waivers, people.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, it's me. Sorry.
That's okay.
It is that time of the night where we get it off our chest. Positive, negative, football, housewives, wine, life, literally quarantine. We're not in quarantine anymore, but well, some people are, but we're here. We're here live. Yes. So why don't you go ahead and get us started? What do you got?
Mine's really quick. Mine's football related. I think we, obviously made this a huge point on our show after week 1 about people jumping to conclusions about things.
Yeah.
And so to me, obviously, we've only played 3. They've only played 3 games so far.
Yeah.
And there are some 0-3 teams and some 3-0 teams that I don't want people to jump to conclusions on both ways.
Like bad or good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for example,
they ain't bad, they ain't good.
I have 5 teams here. The Minnesota Vikings. I am always like the biggest believer in this team.
I think I picked that.
I always feel like they're that like 9-17 that will sneak into the playoffs, but like don't discount them because I have a lot of faith in them. They've got Dalvin Cook. I'm a big believer in Kirk Cousins.
Right.
And yet they're 0-3. I kind of can't believe it. And to be honest, I think I might have picked them every week so far to win. And this was the first time where I finally was like, you know what, Katie, you got to stop picking them. They're playing the Houston Texans, another 0-3 team. And I was just like,
no, I picked the Vikings.
I was like, Katie, you got to stop because it's not panning out. It's not working.
Stop.
The Denver Broncos, 0-3. Obviously, that's a situational circumstance.
Yes.
Drew Lock was really looking forward to watching him.
Yeah.
Got injured. Luckily, he's going to hopefully be back in a couple weeks. But my fear for this team is I hope by the time, if it's a couple of games, I hope they're not 0-5 or 0-6 by the time he comes back. So I have a lot of faith in this team. And I wanted to see
young studs like Jerry Jeudy. Like, I just think,
they're 0-3. And I just want to point, like, this was both of our dark horse teams to make the playoffs. And it sucks. It sucks.
You want to know how many people I gave advice to get Drew Lock on their fantasy teams? He's on one of mine.
But I feel like we definitely weren't the only ones in the football realm who know what they're talking about that really felt this way about that team. So the Tennessee Titans, they're 3-0. This is that team that I can't believe what they did in the playoffs last year. I thought that was a fluke. I thought that, they're not going to be that good this year. I picked the Colts to win the division. Could still happen. I've been fairly okay with what the Colts are doing. Can't believe this team is 3-0. Still not a believer in them just yet. I will need to see more.
I think I am. I've been a Titans believer for a little while.
I'm not there yet. And it mainly has to do with Ryan Tannehill because obviously Derrick Henry is the workhorse,
I think that's
right?
I'm a Derrick Henry believer. So
the Houston Texans.
That's really it.
The Houston Texans 0-3. They also play in that division. I don't necessarily think they're good because I didn't pick them to make the playoffs this year. Didn't pick them to win the division this year. They'll probably finish in 3rd, I would think, behind Tennessee and the Colts.
Well, at this point.
But 0-3, I just kind of wanted to mention this team because I don't feel as though they're an 0-3 team. They're not an 0-3 caliber team.
Right, to like start off 0-3. Like I think when we did, like they're definitely going to lose more than 3 games.
I think they are like a 7-9 team, but I don't think when compared to like the Giants and the Jets, who are both 0-3 right now. Like, it seems weird to group the Texans at 0-3 with the Giants. Yeah. And lastly, I want to talk about the Arizona Cardinals. They're 3-0 right now.
Listen, I'm not buying it. I picked them week after
week. I'm not buying it yet
it.
either. However,
I'm not sold on
really funny. And I might as well just bring this up now because if he ends up being right, it'll be insane. My husband said that now with the addition of an extra playoff team, he believed, and he said it before the season started, that all 4 teams from the NFC West were going to make the playoffs. In the first year that we are adding another playoff team, that would be the most insane thing to ever see. But you've got the Seahawks, you've got the Niners. As long as the Niners can get healthy, they should be there. The Rams have been playing pretty well, right? And you've got the Cardinals who are 3-0. But I did want to mention them because I don't feel they are a 3-0 team.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way I don't feel Houston is the same caliber of some of the other 0-3 teams. I do not. And I missed the one. Chicago Bears, 3-0.
And now they traded their problem quarterback for a better quarterback.
That's why you can't jump
going.
to conclusions because it is only 3 games, people. And right now the Chicago Bears are 3-0 and nobody's actually legitimately scared of them. So that's how I'll wrap it up. I can't believe I almost forgot to mention them. That's the biggest one.
Big one. No, but I think that's a very insane prediction that Frank made, but it's realistic. You guys sit down. It's kind of crazy.
It could happen, yeah, for sure.
Wild.
Put it this way, there's not a weak team in that division.
No, not right now.
You know how when you play in your division, you're like, oh, at least I get to play this team and I could probably beat them. They're like the worst, the bottom of the division.
Crap.
That's my easy game. I get to play them and they suck.
Yeah.
There is no sucky team in that division.
No. And in reality, moving forward, people, division games should always be tough. There should always be competitive.
They should be.
They should always want to rip each other's faces off, no matter how much you suck. Look at the NFC East. We all suck. They're kind of good games.
Yes.
All right. So, I'm getting off my chest. I'm done. I was just going to let you have it. No. Mine is super, super short and sweet. So there is a second round of teasers, clips, trailer for Real Housewives of Salt Lake City coming at you November 11th. So I'm pretty excited for that. So the second trailer is very interesting because they dive into the fact that if you think of Salt Lake City in Utah, they talk about the sights, the skiing, the nightlife, the fashion, and the Mormonism. I don't know if Mormonism is a word, excuse me. So sorry, let's circle back. Sorry, just the being a Mormon. Sorry, I don't want to offend anyone.
I think you were right.
I think that's what they said in the trailer. Whatever, excuse me, please. So the Mormon faith, I'll say that. I don't think that's offensive. So that was like one of their biggest things. And I think that's been on everyone's mind for a very long time since they announced it at Bravo.
It was the first thing we said to each other.
Absolutely. Because again, of course, Utah is known for skiing and maybe nightlife, but cool things.
Kind of for that.
Yeah. So they did touch on it a little bit in the first trailer because actually only about, I think it's 2 women are. Okay. One has exited the Mormon faith. And then 3 of the other women are, they practice another religion. Right. So we were like, okay, that kind of sets the stage for things. And they actually put in a lot of detail of what these women practice and things like that. So this one was basically all about being a Mormon and going into things and a lot of good detail. I think it answers a lot of questions, which is always good. You always want to learn about things. You don't want to be disrespectful. You want to sit back and take all the info you can. So they definitely went into a lot about that, but it just seems wild and crazy. Like we said already 3 or 4 times this episode, things are getting wild and crazy. The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City seems wild, like crazy. They seem on like another level of crazy. The fact that 3 of these women don't even drink alcohol
and make good television.
Yeah.
I think Andy Cohen is itching for this franchise to hit. I think he believes in it so much. I think he thinks people are going to go crazy for it.
So listen, I'm excited. And one of the things that I saw the most, and maybe it's because it is a new franchise, and a lot of you probably saw this with earlier when Beverly Hills started, when New Jersey and New York started, you saw feuds amongst the women. There was multiple things going on, multiple storylines of fights, tiffs, things like that. As we get older and as these franchises get older, like New York, like we had the Dorinda and Tinsley feud this year. And it was kind of like, A, where did this come from? B, why is it here? And everything else was kind of like all great, fine, whatever. You had like things, this.
Almost like they're pulling
it.
Yeah.
Honestly, this was like OG Housewives where like everyone was going after everyone and there was a fight and everything. And I'm like, you know what? That's what we're looking for. Yeah. So it truly feels like an OG franchise, like coming in hot. It is a new one. And yeah, it looks very, very different. I'm excited to see just some new faces. Mm-hmm. So listen, I think I get off my chest that I'm just excited. I love the drop of a second trailer. They're just like pulling us along.
They're getting people ready. And you know what? Honestly, Beverly Hills just finished.
Mhm.
Rhony just finished.
Mhm.
The only one on TV right now
Potomac,
is
right?
Potomac.
Yep.
Potomac will probably be finished by the
Yeah.
time Salt Lake City premieres.
I always say I gotta
Orange County's coming in like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
right? So by the time Salt Lake City hits, we are going to be like itching for more Housewives.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of the perfect time for it to drop.
Yeah.
November 11th. Can't wait.
Absolutely. So yeah, that was my get off my chest.
Nice. All right. Other things that we can't wait for,
Yeah.
other things that we're going to be watching. Real Housewives of Potomac on Sunday at 9 is currently the only franchise that is going on right now. Again, we just said Beverly Hills and Rhony have just wrapped up. Thursday night football, the Denver Broncos versus the New York Jets. Sunday night football is my upset pick, the Philadelphia Eagles at the San Francisco 49ers. And then Monday night football, we have another primetime game for the Green Bay Packers. The Atlanta Falcons are on the road facing Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay. Can't wait. Hopefully another great week of football. Maybe the Giants will get a win. Maybe they won't. We'll just keep rolling with it.
I think we will.
It's life. Roll with the punches, baby.
You got to roll with it. But yes, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Katie's out of
I'm
line.
empty.
I got
Cheers
a little
anyways.
I got a little bit ins, but thank you so much. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.